Yeah, I did some shows in China, and they were, technically speaking, illegal shows because I had a tourist visa to be there, but not a performance visa. But they figured the shows were small enough that you know, from communist fighters and noticed, which they didn't. That should be a T-shirt slogan. Not bothering the communists since whatever. Anyway, but so I went over, and it was just, I don't know, it's funny being in a society. We live in a society where rock and roll is ubiquitous, and it's totally all-pervading, and every single car out there you watch has a rock and roll song in it. And as an art form, it's entirely mass culture, which is one thing. I mean, in a way, that's like arguably one of the things that's interesting about rock and roll is that it's a mass culture phenomenon. But it was just really exciting being in a place whereby rock and roll, not just punk or whatever, or you know, but the entirety of rock and roll is a new phenomenon, and the idea of playing shows and going shows and being in a band and all that kind of thing is just fresh and new. And you can just see these kids who are just losing their shit over the idea. And it's like they'd only just figured out that if you play that chord and then that chord and then that chord and you do it fast and you get the drum going underneath it, then everyone starts punching each other in the head, you know. And it's just kind of, and it's that sort of eureka moment. And I suppose everyone has it when they're kind of a teenager and you first discover about rock and roll. But it was amazing seeing an entire kind of group of people, society, community, whatever you want to put it, like discovering it sort of simultaneously. And there were these bands who, if you saw them playing Camden or at the Horseshoe or whatever, you'd be like, really? Okay. But then there was the fact, it was the context, and they just had so much kind of vim and vigour and piss and vinegar and all the rest of it. And they just, the other thing, the clothes people were wearing, it was like someone had kind of verbally explained to them how punks dressed, but they'd never seen any photos. But and therefore was awesome. And it was just something. What the fuck are you wearing? Like, but in a good way, you know. And just people just shaving weird shit out of their heads, and just it kind of. I guess I sort of felt like that. Maybe that's what CBGB 75 might have felt like. You know, that moment of that new dawn of creation. You know, and a fresh slate of ideas. And I guess so. The whole thing from my point of view, I'm rattling on about this. The whole thing from my point of view was just that it made me feel kind of slightly ashamed that I'm so jaded sometimes and blasé about the music that I'm involved in, that I love. And, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, this is what I do for a living, it's what I do all day, every day, is think about and play rock and roll music. But it was just standing there, it was kind of like, fuck, you know, these kids would give a fucking arm and a leg to spend a week in Camden, and I spent months in Camden being bored.